recording this onto my computer. Okay, so you guys will receive the file via YouTube link sent to you tomorrow morning. So I'm hosting this as the owner of Zeal Performance, and I know nothing about gut health, which is why Barb is here. She is the all-knowing one in the room to share the knowledge. So Barb, go ahead. And as per last webinar's request, you can see Barb's face today. So to end our poll here, before you get started, Barb, I can actually share these results. And it looks like we have a 50-50 split of people knowing some stuff, feeling like they know some stuff, and then people feeling like they know more than most, but we don't have any specialists, and no one thought this was a book club. So that's good. All right, and from there, I'm gonna give it to Barb, and go ahead.
All right. Okay, thanks so much, Tessa. I'm so full of gratitude that we get to connect, and Ray, recording. Sorry about that. So that I get to connect with Tessa and play around with her with this little webinar series. I will share my screen in a second. And then I'll give you a quick introduction as to, hang on, I'm just sharing screen here. Therapy, because I was injured, so I'm now a trigger point therapist, cranial sacral therapist, do a little bit of neural manipulation, and then decided to add an extra component, which then I recently graduated from the Canadian School of Holistic Nutrition. So the reason I chose that school is that it makes it like 3 or 4 tiers, depending on how you decide that it's tiered. So you have your nutrition component, but you also have your lifestyle component, but you also have your spiritual or your soul or that body, mind, soul component. So there is actually an extra little bit to that. And if you're thinking, wow, I'm not there, but you are there. Even if that little soul component is just stress, that's part of your soul, is that we need to kind of keep that all in mind. So, and I learned a whole lot about myself when taking this nutrition course, and thought that, wow, what do you mean stomach aches that's not normal? What? I have them all the time. Why I'm not? I thought I was in the normal zone. So I learned a lot about that. Just before I go on, I need to let you know that I'm not a doctor, and the information that I'm sharing today is just for general information. I will provide some suggestions, and some of the suggestions you may find work for you and some may not. We are all unique. My favorite word as of late is biohack, which is where you can take your own experiences, experiment with your own body to figure out what works for you. So that's just my favorite new word, as opposed to being we are all unique. What works for you doesn't work for your sister or your mom or your brother or your whatever. We need to biohack your own body. So if you have any medical questions, concerns, if you have a pre-existing condition that you think you need to check in, please consult your medical professional if you want to take any of the suggestions, but you have questions about them with your own body. Okay, so no guts, no glory. So I'm going to talk today about the importance of healthy guts. And we're all athletes. Whether you think you're an athlete or you're not an athlete, you are an athlete. You can capture that inner athlete. And if that means to you just getting out of bed and walking down the stairs and then walking back up the stairs, and that's your athletic ability, that's exactly who you are. If you're one of a professional athlete or you're a wannabe professional athlete, then we're in a different category. But that's okay too, because even though I've laid out a few kind of suggestions as to if you were a high performance athlete, but scale that back. And that athletic ability is just you want to be able to go out, be healthy, go for a walk, go for a round of golf, because the courses are opening soon. All right, so let's rule out a few things that are involved in that whole GI thing before we take a look into what's going on in the guts. So physiological. So when we're working out, your blood flow is redirected to get so that your blood provides the oxygen to your muscles. So the blood does not then help the digestive system. So also know that with that, if you have any kind of stress, now that can just be day-to-day stress, but if it's like that race day stress, that those jitters that I have to go to the bathroom before I start the race, know that those are also into consideration. So those, when you have that stress level, that also impedes your digestion. So there's one factor there. Girls, if you're in your high hormone phase, which is what we talked about last webinar, so that's the last 2 weeks of your cycle, there is an increase in estrogen, and then the estrogen, progesterone, those two control the smooth muscles of the digestive tract. So it could actually take longer to empty your stomach. And some of us, when I was putting this, got a little light bulb going on. Oh, that's why. And they also raise inflammation. So that could also trigger any kind of GI issue. Mechanical. So take into consideration what kind of sport you're doing. If you're a runner or marathoner and it's that high impact and you've got to pound for 2 hours or 4 hours, however long. Cycling, if you're that position on the seat, you're a little bit crunched over. So take into consideration what kind of sport you're doing. And then nutrition. So what did you eat before? What did you eat during? If you like to do the gels, know that those are high, most of them are high sugar products, and they could have any kind of trigger to a GI issue. Heat. So this is external. So this is the outside temperature and the inside temperature of your body. Remember again, high hormone phase for girls, your body temperature is a little bit higher, and it's going to put a bit of a thermoregulatory strain that affects the intestinal wall and reduces the clearance of endotoxins. So again, we are back with a little bit of a GI distress. So if we've ruled all these out, and then we need to actually take a look at how healthy our guts are. So guts. So the easiest way to improve your general health and your physical performance is to improve your gut health. So we all know about that bacteria in the gut because we watch those yogurt commercials, and we know that there's like that bacteria thing that's happening in our gut. So we have the good bacteria and the bad bacteria, and we need to, so we have specific gut bacteria, and the problem starts to arise when our bad bacteria takes over and outweighs the good bacteria. So we need to keep a good balance throughout that whole GI tract, as it will influence a lot of the rest of our body system. And it will help, it actually has influence over cravings, metabolism, moods, immunity, fat storage. So it's quite crucial that we take care of our little microbiome and keep it in good balance. So here's my first fun fact. The probiotics, so that's the one that we usually hear on the commercial, the probiotics are the actual bacteria that live in your gut. More recently, we're listening to the commercials that it says it also has prebiotics. What's that? So the prebiotics are actually the food for the probiotics. So I think it's more of a marketing scheme as to you need both, but you really just need the probiotic because your digestive system is already making the food for it, whether it's the good food or the bad food. That's what we'll talk about in a little bit. Our microbiome. So that's the definition of a collection of the microbes and the microorganisms that inhabit inside and outside of our body. So it's the bacteria, it's fungi, it's protozoa, it's viruses. And this includes the digestive system, the intestinal system, your colon, and your skin. So that makes it on the outside of your body. It's unique to you, and it's like your own fingerprint. And it consists of a network of cells of 10 to 100 trillion little symbiotic, meaning they work together, microbial cells, and that live primarily in the gut. There is some that live on your skin, but today we're just going to talk about the gut ones. So human individuals are 99.9% identical to each other in terms of their own genome, which is that we have so many chromosomes, whereas the microbiome of each individual can be 80 to 90% different from each other. So nobody is the same. Again, going back to that unique fingerprint. And our microbiome, it weighs 1 to 3% of your total mass. So it's significant. We need to take care of it. Here's a little picture of how the microbiome is set out, and shows that we have trillions of bacteria, unique again, like your own little fingerprint. They're the influences that create our little microbiota. Their genetics, environment, diet, lifestyle, hormones, industry, and it grows as we grow. So it starts at birth, and it kind of is influenced by our external environment and internal environment, and is located in your nose, mouth, lungs, and butt for us, specifically stomach, colon, and then it's in your reproductive system and on your skin. So we have different strains based on your own person and in your environment and even in your own sport. So research has shown that there's different microbiomes, depending if you're a runner or a cyclist. So depending on what your sport is, you have different factors that influence what your microbiome could look like. All right, so beneficial bacteria. So we have the good bacteria and the bad bacteria. And more recently, we see more research. We have more information off the TV and off publications on good bacteria. And we used to only focus on what was the bad bacteria, what made it sick, and how could we fight that bad bacteria. But now we're learning that the body needs both. You can't just have one without the other. We have the beneficial bacteria maintains the integrity of the lining of your intestinal tract by converting the unabsorbed dietary sugars into short-chain amino fatty acids, providing energy for the cells to regenerate themselves. So that's why we need it, so that the bacteria then helps us keep our system intact. And I got a slide later as to show what happens. So dysbiosis, it's just a fancy word for the imbalance of the good bacteria and the bad bacteria. So, and what do we have? So why we need this bacteria is one, or intestinal flora is another word that we often hear. It actually helps synthesize some B vitamins like biotin, B12, folic acid, and vitamin K, which is important in blood clotting and bone formation. So that's what we don't, so that's a good added advantage for our little bacteria. It breaks down toxins. Again, toxins, that's in food, maybe it's in medication, and medication could be across the board, like even just down to aspirin, ibuprofen, stuff like that. It helps produce digestive enzymes, helps with the absorption of calcium, magnesium, copper, zinc, or iron and zinc. And it breaks down plant fiber and fatty acids, and then it stimulates our immune system. So the probiotics, they stimulate the immune system and help in the recreation of immunoglobulin A, which is important in reducing infection, allergies, and inflammation. So maybe that's why there's a connection, definite connection between our bacteria and our immune system. But they're all, know that they're all connected. So it's not just, we're just here to talk about athletic performance. The body is interconnected across our multiple systems. Okay, but we're going to talk specifically, again, I said about our digestive and intestinal. So the digestion begins in the mouth with the saliva and chewing. Big factor here, that we rush through the day, rush through our meals, and don't chew things properly. And there is actually research that you could have, I think it's like 80% of your food digested if you chewed it enough, right? It then doesn't even have to, you're doing most of the work in your mouth. Moves down the esophagus and the stomach, small intestine, and then you've got a couple of little organs involved, and then in the large intestine, and then out it goes. So we want to keep that digestive system in top form, so that one, food's not getting stuck in there, or two, that it's I blanked what I was going to say. Sorry about that. that you actually absorb the nutrients that come out. So we talked about how the blood is out of your digestive system when we're doing physical exercise, as it takes a back seat to cardiovascular respiratory systems that we have going on. And again, I said this before, but it also is important that stress, so work stress, life stress, athletic performance stress. So your body is in either fight, flight. Oh, I have to typo there. I have two flights. I'll fix that. We have flight mode, we have fight mode, or we have freeze mode, and then the digestion is put on hold. So improved digestion is going to improve our energy. Then moving into the intestinal system is responsible for the absorption of digested nutrients through the wall of the small intestine and into the bloodstream, and expelling the waste into the large intestine. So any disruption in the breakdown, absorption, and elimination compromises the body's energy. And maybe that's the defense system, the cleaning ability, and it overall results in negative effects on the entire body. So most gastrointestinal, is a functional disorder rather than structural. So functional means that relief of the symptoms can typically be relieved by lifestyle changes, your diet, maybe addressing stress, exercise, and those are ones that, like constipation, diarrhea, irritable bowel syndrome, versus the structural disorder where the body structure actually does not work properly. And that could be like cancer, colitis, Crohn's, but that we can still help support those structural disorders by keeping our microbiome nice and healthy. So exercise can strengthen the gut microbiome and stimulates the bacteria activities and improves the bacteroids, which is gram-negative, so they're the bad ones, to the firmicutes, which is gram-positive. So, and that's the good ones. There was way too many to list, so I was just leaving them as bad and good, as opposed to the actual long names. Okay, 9 ways that we can help strengthen the gut biome, which will then help enhance athletic performance. Again, athletic performance, that's you. That's whatever you are feeling you need to do as your athletic performance. And if that's just to walk the golf course or to hit the Olympics, that's where we are. So it has a significant role in inflammation, and it interferes with athletic performance and slows down the recovery. So, and then the inflammation is generally a root cause of chronic diseases that come after it. The dysbiosis, again, that's the imbalance of the good and bad gut flora, is associated with inflammatory conditions. And also know that if you are an athlete or an ultra athlete, so you may need different additional support for your microbiome, because there's research that shows strenuous exercise, like high performance training, you create more free radicals in your body. And so then we need extra good bacteria to balance out those free radicals. They're just going to throw off your gut balance. We're also going to boost energy levels, which can translate to a reduced fatigue through better lactic acid breakdown, controlled redox, which is your chemical reaction of gaining and losing electrons. That's your free radical thing right there. And then and that will help delay fatigue syndromes or fatigue symptoms. It's going to increase your ATP levels, which means you can continue to drive through your workout or through your race, regulate metabolism as it supplies metabolites to your mitochondria and helps regulate and store energy. It's going to improve your mental strength, mental health. So your gut talks to your brain through the vagus nerve. So, and it can contribute to mental strength, mental health, and it's Mental Health Week. But in this case, if we're looking at athletic performance, mental health, we need it enhances your mood, your pain tolerance, your cognitive performance, your behavior, your mental clarity, your attitude, and overall brain function. And a lot of us, when we're in those races or training races, that what goes down first, and it might not be your body, it could just be your brain. So elite athletes, so somewhere between 4 and 68%, and I know that's a big number, but that's because we included both males and females in this study, are more prone to develop depressive symptoms, so mental health issues. And with females being more likely than males, and individual sports higher than team sports. And this is where we want to have a good gut-brain connection. And so some of the reasons that we can develop these depressive symptoms could be due to besides the gut biome, it's also genetic factors or environment. Maybe it's injury and overtraining, or even perceived failure. But that's huge. That's a large amount of athletes not continuing just because we need a healthier brain. The microbiome helps the body run more efficiently because it influences our body mass composition. So that's muscle versus fat. It influences the white versus the brown fat. So the brown fat is the one that we don't see. That's the one that insulates the organs, and it's the organ protector. And it also influences your blood glucose response to meals. The microbiome also regulates hormones and immunity, and the proper functioning microbiome can actually help speed up bone healing. That also has to do with that vitamin K. Helps with the nutrient absorption and use, especially with calcium and magnesium. And if the microbes are overburdened And in a toxic environment, then they can't pull out the vitamins and the proteins and enzymes that we need. So really, what good is it to train really hard and eat the right foods if your body can't even absorb the fuel that we need to keep it going or to take us to the next level? Obviously, we are absorbing the nutrients to keep us going. We want to just take it to the next level. It elevates your hydration status, so it helps the body use water more efficiently, and it improves sleep because it controls other hormones like cortisol, serotonin, GABA, which is an amino acid that works as a neurotransmitter for your brain, and that melatonin. And so it actually will improve our sleep. Antioxidant defense system. So in general, especially with high intensity exercise, because it creates more oxidative stress, so more free radicals, and we need the healthy bacteria to keep that antioxidants in good working order. So that healthy gut can help prevent tissue damage from exercise. It protects against the extra free radicals. It reduces physical fatigue and boosts the immune system. So we have a few factors that why we want to take care of our little gut bacteria. The microflora actually provide you with quite a few nutrients. They take your food that the digestive tract can't use and process it and turn it into the nutrients that you need. Okay, so how do I know? We have, so the micro, come on. Oh, sorry. There we go. So how do I know? So here are a few things that affect our microbiome. Antibiotics. So, and that can be that you took them recently or within 5 years, that antibiotic, and I'm not saying don't take antibiotics, that is not it at all. What I'm saying is that if you need to take the antibiotics, just make sure that your gut flora is supported with those antibiotics, because it's going to kill your good bacteria and your bad bacteria. We're drinking lots of coffee. Now, again, I have my coffee. I also have my kombucha. I have one of each. So we have not no coffee, but not lots of coffee, right? So maybe it's 2 cups a day with water. The coffee just disrupts the system a little bit. But the biggest thing is that most of us don't drink enough water. Ideally, it's 8 to 10 cups. And if you're working out, you need more than that. If you're drinking diuretic stuff like coffee, you need more than that. And I would suggest that it's if you have the opportunity or the option to have filtered water versus tap water, because some of our tap water has other fluoride or chlorination in it, which then also disrupts our little gut bacteria a little bit. If you're constipated or you have diarrhea, that's going to affect it. Food sensitivity, so maybe it's dairy or gluten or soy, low fiber diet, stress, and again, eating in a hurry and not chewing completely. I'm also going to throw in here drinking a lot of water with your meals. That's going to throw off a bit of your digestion also. So what do I look for? How do I know? So candidiasis or candida, which is yeast overgrowth, and we can, both males and females, they can have this. It's not just, if you looked it up on the internet, it's going to send you to a Vagisil commercial, but know that that's not the only indication. Guys can have yeast overgrowth too, especially if they're not supporting their gut bacteria. And here's a few symptoms. There's not lots. Or sorry, these are just a few. I have like, I think in my little information questionnaire sheet, There's like 3 times this. So I just picked out a few, and this would indicate that maybe your yeast overgrowth is a little bit more. So brain fog, irritability, mood swings, especially if you crave sugars, breads, or alcohol, extreme fatigue, PMS, skin complexion, or eczema, frequent midnight snacking, forgetfulness. We have, if you have nausea after taking supplements, you grind your teeth. And these are just suggestions. They're not necessarily that because you have one of these is that you have parasite or you might have overgrowth of yeast. These are just a few suggestions. So that's just as an idea. If you think, wow, oh well, wait, I have that. I crave sugar. I crave breads. Absolutely. All right. So this is what's happening. So here's a picture of what we have. Your gut homeostasis, which is the balance, but know that it's a fluctuating. It's a fluctuating balance, right? So that things happen all the time. So it's not a static state. It's a variable state. So we have on the left, we've got our the particles that are passing through. So we got our little IgAs, and that's our immunoglobulins, and we have some bacteria, and the good bacteria, and then these little fingers, they're your villi, and we need the villi because it increases the surface area of our intestine so that the nutrients then have a larger surface area so that we can absorb through that. Then we have our functional barrier, and you can see on our left we have tight junctions so that things don't go in and they don't come out. So we're stuck there. We have a nice little tight junction, and then on the outside of that, those are what's trying to get in. So those may be the viruses or their other bacteria, and that's what we want to keep on the outside. So then when we have dysbiosis, so we have imbalance of bad bacteria. You can tell which ones are the bad bacteria because they look spiky and mean. They have, and so the dysbiosis, then the toxins and the bad bacteria, they shrink our villi. So they cut down those little villi. So then we have a less smaller surface area that's going to absorb our nutrients. And then the barrier breaks down. So you have the barrier defect. You see that we have the tight junctions on the left side. Then there's no tight junctions on the right side. And then the bad bacteria then sneak through, and then they go into our bloodstream. And it's okay when our good bacteria go, or we want only the nutrients in the bloodstream. We don't want those bad bacteria in the bloodstream. So if you imagine that the healthy gut works like a cheesecloth and it allows only the nutrients through and keeps the larger food particles and pathogens, so the bacteria and the yeast and the parasites, out. And then when the junctions become loose, then the undigested food and pathogens get through, and it activates the immune system, causing inflammation, allergies, and food sensitivity. So as give you an idea. So let's say we have not a very tight junction, and we eat some food, and then it doesn't get digested, and it sneaks through, and it goes into your bloodstream as a food particle. So a tiny food particle instead of an actual going into the bloodstream as a nutrient, but it sneaks through this little shortcut. Then our white blood cells, which are our immune system, what we want as our defense system, sees this as, oh, yikes, let's go destroy this. So our white blood cells actually goes, and I know this isn't a word, but it's the best word I can come up with, phagocytes, the little food particle, which means it eats it, right? But that's not your white blood. That's not what your white blood cell is supposed to do. It's supposed to fight the other things that are bad in your body, not your food. So it helps digest these food particles that have gone through your little holes in our little functional barrier. anyway, I know that was a little bit graphic, but this is then a precursor to other chronic illnesses that then we can lead to. Maybe it becomes leaky gut syndrome, or something a little bit more serious than that. But there's always something to start with. So that's why we have the dysregulated immune response. We want our body to be functioning properly and not our white blood cells to be eating and digesting our food for us. All right, so now what? What do we do? So there's a few different schools of thought. And again, you got to biohack your body and figure out what works for you. So a probiotic, whether you want to take it as a supplement, again, there's a lot of good versus bad probiotic information out there, that you can't take a probiotic because it's live, and how can it be live when it's in a pill format? Well, I have some probiotics that are actually shelf safe, so they're kind of sleeping until you take them, but it needs to indicate that on the bottle. So, but you can drink your probiotic. This was just by accident. I'm not supporting the company at all, but although it is pretty good. Blueberry rooibos kombucha, that's a good probiotic. Onions, garlic, those are good probiotic foods. So if we just increase our probiotics so that it crowds out those pathogens. So that's one school of thought, is that you can just do it by taking, maybe it's a supplement, maybe it's extra food. Another way is only to speed up digestion and elimination, so that we ensure proper absorption. Will starve out pathogens, and that with other food, that we then they just don't sit there, and the bad bacteria just keep growing. We have the good bacteria that's combating against that. Rice-based diet is another different school of thought, that you just switch to a rice-based diet. If you want, you can. Easily digest, and then there's no time for it to be just sitting to rot. Other lifestyle factors, we have to include those too, because we want to decrease our stress, maybe increase exercise, or maybe you're already increased exercise. So when I was researching for this, I had read through a couple of my textbooks, and they made these sound like this was one or the other, or the other, or the other. I kind of like, well, I'll do a little bit of this, and I'll do a little bit of that, and I'll do a little bit of that, because it's easy, right? I can eat rice, I can switch that up, and I can eat rice more often than I eat pasta, and that's good, because then my digestion will be working smooth that day, and the next day I can have something else. So again, back to biohacking, you can choose to do a few different things. And I'm a big advocate of just baby steps, one little thing at a time. And then you change one little thing, and then that becomes your normal. And then you change something else, and then that becomes your normal, rather than trying to, I'm going to just do this for 7 days and it's going to be totally over extreme. And are you going to stick with it? We need to keep it realistic, and small little changes, little baby steps. So you can change the diversity of your microbiome by eating diverse foods, eating the same thing all the time, or you eat pasta only, or you eat one specific food. You like to eat spaghetti and meatballs all the time, and so that's what you eat 4 times during the week. Maybe mix that up again, so that we change the diversity of our micro, and maybe try something that you've never tried before. Okay, so here's a few examples of what we can do to help repair the gut. And maybe it's not even repair, maybe it's just to support the gut. So bone broth, steamed vegetables, your avocado and your fish, that's full of your omega-3s. And again, big advocate, if you're not going to eat your avocado and your fish, and you've gone like 3 days without eating that, all right, let's just take an omega-3 supplement. Fermented foods, talked about that, the kombucha. Some pickles, but not all pickles, because there's a different process to pickling versus fermented. Hemp and chia, there's your omega-3s again. Ginger, turmeric, maybe it's just a spice of, maybe it's making ginger sauce with some chicken instead of barbecue sauce. Antioxidants like a vitamin C, those are easy to get. We get them in peppers, oranges, apples. We get them quite a few foods we have in for our vitamin C. So some of the worst foods we have, grains and gluten, refined sugars, baking, refined oils, nightshades. So nightshades are like peppers, white potatoes, tomatoes, eggplant, paprika. Some legumes, not all, but some could make it worse, like some beans could make it worse. Tobacco, definitely, although I have a feeling that I have no smokers on this webinar. So these, on the worst side of things, I'm not saying these are just, they could just be temporary. They could just be a few weeks. Maybe we try, take out a grain, maybe don't eat a grain, and you'll find that, wow, I feel much better without gluten. Again, it's back to trial and error as to what is going to work for you. The nightshade thing, again, it's not, it's just a suggestion just to try temporarily. And there, we're at the end. So that was, again, when we post this, I'm just going to show you, there's my content for my resources, but I'll just go back to that page. So again, it's what works for you, to just trial and error. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you don't know where to start, I can give you an idea as to at least where to start, and to try to biohack your own, again, my favorite word. I think I should make the next one that.
Nice, Barb. Good stuff. Okay, we have some questions if you have time.
I do.
Awesome. Okay, so first question here. Can you see this question pop up on your screen or no? If not, I can read it for you. I don't know.
Is it in Q&A?
It is in Q&A. So one person asked, what's Barb's favorite probiotic, brand or type? And how do you know if you should be taking one?
So I don't know how to get back to this. Are you still seeing this screen?
I am still seeing that screen. Yep.
I don't know how to go back. Okay. So, and I'm not going to the Q&A. I don't know how to stop sharing my screen. Oh, maybe I do that. No. Yeah. Okay. Oh, stop share. Right at the top. Little red window. Sorry about that. I never said I was good at technology. So my favorite probiotic actually just happens to be kombucha, but that's because I find it really quite easy to do, right? I know it's really expensive. I do know that. And I have contemplated making my own probiotic kombucha, but I just haven't got there. So that is, I do have that. I also do a probiotic supplement. And funny enough, this is my own biohack experience. I never ate garlic. It used to swell up my tongue. So if anybody on this webinar, can't really see who's on it, they'd be like, what? Yeah, of course, you're allergic to garlic, swells up your tongue. I can now eat garlic. And so fresh garlic, a little bit sketchy, but I'm moving there. Like I can now do garlic powder and garlic, cooked garlic. But it used to really bother my tongue, and I didn't like that feeling. So something I've changed has made me less allergic to it. I can't remember. I've gone off on a tangent. I can't remember the second half of the question.
Well, and then she asked, how do you know if you should be taking a probiotic? I think that was kind of, she asked us before that list came up.
Oh, okay.
Things to kind of look for, but I guess it's like when you feel like you do have some dysfunction within your gut, like how do you decide that it's not drinking 7 cups of coffee, and that maybe I should be taking a probiotic to kind of help.
Exactly, right. It could be both, right? And there could be more than just the probiotic. Maybe you're missing something else, right? So if you want, I don't know who asked the question, but if she wants to ask me directly, I can send out a little questionnaire form that I have, and it'll give me an idea as to what else is going on. Like maybe it's not just, maybe there's something different. Maybe there's something more than that. Maybe digestion actually isn't going. Maybe there's not enough bile. It's super common digestive issues is that you don't have enough hydrochloric acid to be actually digesting the food. So the probiotic would be irrelevant. Until you do them together. So yeah, hope that answered the question.
Yeah, no, it's great. So if someone really feels like they have a gut dysfunction, what is the best way to kind of, would you recommend just playing around with different diet, lifestyle change, or going through and doing some sort of testing, whether that's a stool sample, or what do you think?
You can do a test for sure. I did blood testing. This was way before I took my nutrition course. So I did blood testing and found out, ooh, shocker, I was low in vitamin D. Woo, okay. I know, right? But I was also low in magnesium. And I thought, oh, well, that's weird. That doesn't make sense. But so then I only just took extra magnesium. And it was, okay, so if anybody has ever just taken magnesium and, tried to fix things, there's a very fine line between what's working and then what's overworking. So, and I thought, well, then that's not right. Like, how can I just be taking magnesium? That's not going to help me. So, and then when I took my nutrition course, there's so many factors, right? It even comes down to hormones. Or what if you're on the pill? Or what if you have other medication? Or what if you've been already diagnosed with something? So there's more to it than just taking a supplement or only eating apples, right? Apples are great. They're full of pectin, helps the digestion, helps the elimination process, but you can't just eat apples. So there's the biggest thing, if you don't want to go through the whole testing, our school we were learned that you take the symptoms and you work with the symptoms and you work backwards from there. So then there is no testing. So the list of symptoms, kind of like that short list that I gave, there's more to it than that. And then we go backwards and address the symptoms, which then will generally support the rest of the system, the body system. And then we go backwards from there. Otherwise, keep a journal, keep a food journal, and write down what you ate, what works, what makes you feel bad, what makes you feel good. And if you kind of go, wow, this was horrible. I just ate way too much sugar. That was just, my guts are killing me. Yeah, that's an easy one. But you might find that if you have cravings, and you look at what you're eating, and from our last webinar, we said protein was important, but you take a look at actually how much protein you're consuming and it's not enough, that's a huge factor in cravings. So increase your protein at every meal, not once, right? Like not just at the evening meal or whatever. You need a little bit throughout the day.
Mm-hmm. And one last question, Barb. If someone does decide to try a probiotic supplementation, how frequently do they need it in order to support the gut microbiome? Like, is this a daily thing, or is it twice a day, monthly?
There are different schools of thought. And again, I'm not, I take supplements and I have different supplements. All of the supplements will have your recommended dose on the back. So it sort of depends which one you take, because some have, 10 billion units and some have 5 billion units or whatever. So the recommended dose is on the back. I like to think that if you're eating healthy, and you're eating the probiotic, and you drink the kombucha, or you're eating sourdough bread, not 3 loaves at a time. Tends to happen because it was so good when it came out of the oven. But if you're eating that, then maybe you don't need the supplement. Again, it goes back to what you've done that day, how you feel, what's your stress level. I was just reading a post of a friend of mine she's also in the biohacking sort of thing, and she's like, oh, this is killing me. I thought I had it yesterday, and today is horrible. Of course it is, right? Give yourself a little bit of leeway, right? One day is not going to be good, and the other day could be good, or whatever. And because our body, especially for girls, we have such a huge fluctuation as to what happens throughout that month, or throughout the lifestyle, not even just month, right? We start 13 up to 50, give or take 10. Yep. Things change.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Barb. That was awesome.
Thanks, Tess.
Good. And then those of you who asked questions or commented, I'm going to share your question with Barb via email, so she'll have that and she'll get back to you. Tomorrow morning, everybody gets a copy of this as a YouTube link sent to their email bright and early, so you can share it with anybody else you'd like. From my end of things, I have a webinar coming up with my colleague, Doug. It's about developing a high performance lifestyle. It's a Monday night, about 30 to 45 minutes long. Check it out on our Facebook page. And Barb, people can reach out to you through your email?
Absolutely.
Cool. Okay.
Thanks, Tess.
Good stuff. Good to see you, Barb.
Good to see you. I wish you could hug.
Thanks for coming.